She came in with no connections, no fancy degree, no powerful last name. But she walked out with the job that changed her life forever, and the 3 people who laughed at her, they never saw it coming. Miami, Brickell Avenue. The glass towers that touch the sky here don't just hold offices, they hold power. And inside one of them, a decision was about to be made that would change 4 lives forever. Next Gen AI, one of the fastest growing artificial intelligence companies in the United States, was looking for a new operations director. The salary? $280,000 a year. The benefits? Life-changing. The competition? Brutal. 3 finalists had made it to the last round. Each one believed they were the obvious choice. Each one was wrong about something they couldn't see yet. Chad Morrison was 34 years old, sharp jaw, expensive watch, the kind of man who walked into every room like he already owned it. Victoria Lane was 31, perfectly pressed blazer, reviewing notes on a tablet, barely acknowledging anyone around her. And Kayla Brooks, 29 years old, natural hair pulled back neatly, modest but clean attire, sat quietly in the waiting area, hands folded, looking around the room with calm, observant eyes. Chad had an MBA from Wharton. Victoria had connections in Silicon Valley. And Kayla had cleaned offices like this one for 6 years before she ever sat in one as a candidate. And none of them knew. The test had already begun. Out in the hallway near the restrooms, a white envelope sat on the floor. It was thick. The word cash was written on it in marker. A security camera blinked quietly in the corner. Subtle, easy to miss. Chad walked past first. He stopped, looked around, picked it up, opened it slightly. A stack of $100 bills. He glanced left, then right, then smoothly tucked it into his jacket pocket and whispered to himself, "Lucky day." Victoria came next. She spotted the envelope peeking out from where Chad had nudged it. She pushed it under the bench with her heel and kept walking. Not my problem, she told herself. Then came Kayla. She spotted the envelope immediately, picked it up, confirmed it was full of cash, and walked directly to the front desk. She handed it to Diane, the receptionist, a warm woman in her 50s, and said, "Excuse me, I found this on the floor near the hallway. It looks important. Someone must have dropped it." Diane nodded slowly, eyes soft, and thanked her. Kayla walked back to her seat without mentioning it to anyone. She didn't look proud. She just did the right thing and moved on. 3 people, same envelope, 3 completely different choices. And somewhere in this building, someone was watching every single one of them. And that was only the beginning. In the elevator lobby, an older man in a gray maintenance uniform, Walter, in his 60s, was pushing a cleaning cart when it accidentally clipped Chad's shoe as the elevator doors opened. Chad snapped immediately, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Watch where you're going, man. These are $800 shoes." Walter kept his head down and apologized quietly. Chad waved him off and stepped into the elevator without another word. Victoria walked past Walter without a single glance. She stepped around the cart like it was an obstacle in a parking lot, but Kayla stopped. Walter was still flustered, trying to reorganize items that had fallen from the cart. She crouched down and picked up a bottle of cleaning solution that had rolled across the floor. "Here you go," she said. "Are you okay?" Walter looked up, surprised. He told her he was fine, just clumsy. Kayla shook her head gently and said, "You're not clumsy. This hallway is too narrow for that cart. They should fix that." Walter laughed softly. Kayla handed him the bottle, gave him a real smile, and headed to the elevator. The way you treat someone who can't give you anything says everything about who you really are. Chad saw an inconvenience. Victoria saw nothing. Kayla saw a person. Outside the building entrance, a man sat on the steps. His name was Marcus. He was in his 50s, wearing disheveled clothes, a paper cup in front of him. He wasn't aggressive, just quiet, tired, the kind of invisible that most people walk right past. The 3 candidates came outside together for a short break before the interview. Marcus spoke softly. "Excuse me, I haven't eaten since yesterday. Anything helps." Chad didn't even slow down. "Get a job," he said, waving a hand without looking back. Victoria pulled out her phone and stepped around Marcus without breaking stride. "There are shelters for that," she said flatly. Kayla stopped. She looked at Marcus, really looked at him. She opened her purse. She had $23 in cash. She took out 15, nearly everything she had, and placed it in his hand. "There's a Cuban place on the corner," she told him. "The rice and beans are amazing and it's cheap. Please eat something." Marcus looked up at her, eyes glistening, and said, "God bless you, young lady." Kayla smiled softly. "Take care of yourself," she said, and walked back inside. She didn't know Chad and Victoria had watched. She didn't care. Chad leaned toward Victoria and smirked. She just gave away money before a $280,000 interview. That's why people stay broke. Victoria said nothing. But she didn't disagree. They didn't know it yet. But in that moment, standing on those steps, they had each decided their own fate. Every choice was a signature, and someone was reading every single one. Back in the waiting area, the tension was thick. Chad turned to Kayla, voice low but sharp. "No offense, but what are you even doing here? This is a director-level position. You don't exactly have the profile." Kayla looked at him calmly and asked, "What profile is that?" Chad smirked and said, "You know what I mean." Victoria didn't look up from her tablet, but she added, "The role requires someone who commands respect in the room. First impressions matter in this industry." Kayla looked at both of them. She didn't flinch. She didn't raise her voice. She simply said, "I've been in rooms like this my whole life, just never on this side of the desk. That's about to change." Silence. Chad scoffed. Victoria went back to her tablet. They had already dismissed her, already written her off, already decided the ending of a story that wasn't theirs to write. One by one, each candidate was brought into a sleek conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Biscayne Bay. Diane, the receptionist from earlier, sat across from them with a single notepad. No laptop, no panel, just her. She looked at each of them and said, "Before we begin the formal interview, I have one question. Just one. Do you consider yourself a good person?" Chad didn't hesitate. He leaned back confidently and said, "Absolutely. I'm driven, I'm fair, and I reward results. I've built teams that outperformed every benchmark. I lead by example." Victoria was measured and professional. "I believe I operate with integrity," she said. "My track record speaks for itself. I don't cut corners and I don't tolerate those who do." Then it was Kayla's turn. She paused. She actually thought about it, and then she said, "I try to be. I don't always get it right, but I try to treat people the way I'd want to be treated, whether they're watching or not, especially when they're not." A long pause followed. Diane looked at her, and for just a moment, something shifted in her expression, something knowing. 3 answers, 3 mirrors, and the truth was hiding in plain sight. All 3 candidates were brought into the main conference room together. They expected HR, they expected a panel, they expected the standard corporate performance. Instead, the door opened, and in walked Marcus. But not the Marcus from the steps outside. This Marcus was wearing a tailored charcoal suit. His posture was straight. His eyes were sharp and calm. He sat at the head of the table. Chad's jaw tightened. Victoria blinked. Kayla went very still. Marcus spoke quietly, with complete authority. "Good afternoon. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm the founder and CEO of NextGen AI." Silence. Total, suffocating silence. "I know what you're thinking," he continued. "And yes, I was the man on the steps this morning." He opened a folder and slid 3 printed sheets across the table, one to each candidate. "This is a summary of your morning," he said. "Every interaction, every choice. Documented." Chad pocketing the envelope. Victoria kicking it under the bench. Kayla returning it to the desk. Chad snapping at Walter. Victoria ignoring him. Kayla stopping to help. Chad dismissing Marcus on the steps. Victoria stepping around him. Kayla giving her last $15 and telling him where to find a good meal. Marcus looked at Chad. The envelope had $400 in it. "It's in your jacket pocket right now." Chad said nothing. Marcus turned to Victoria. "You didn't take it, but you didn't return it either. You made sure it wasn't your problem." Then he looked at Kayla. "And you?" Gave a stranger your last $15 and told him where to find a good meal. He paused. I've built 3 companies, he said. I've hired hundreds of people. And I've learned one thing that no algorithm has ever been able to replicate: character. You can teach skills, you can train strategy. You cannot manufacture who someone is when no one is watching. He closed his folder. To Chad, he said simply, you'll want to leave the envelope at the front desk on your way out. To Victoria, thank you for your time. Then he looked at Kayla. The position is yours, if you want it. Kayla stared at him, her eyes filled, not with tears of weakness, but with something deeper: recognition, vindication. She said, voice steady, I want it. Chad and Victoria walked out of the building in silence. No words between them. The weight of what had just happened pressed down on both of them. Chad stopped at the front desk and slid the envelope across to Diane without making eye contact. She took it, said nothing, but her eyes said everything. In Marcus's office, with the Miami skyline blazing in the late afternoon sun, he and Kayla sat across from each other, no longer CEO and candidate. 2 people, finally honest. Marcus asked her, when you gave me that money this morning, you didn't know who I was. You had almost nothing in your wallet. Why? Kayla answered simply, because you looked like you needed it more than I did. Marcus nodded slowly and looked out at the city. I grew up homeless in Overtown, he said. Right here in Miami. I know what it feels like to be invisible. I built this company because I wanted to prove that where you start doesn't have to be where you end. But I also needed to know, before I trusted someone with what I built, that they understood that too. He extended his hand. Welcome to Next Gen, Kayla. She shook it. Firm. Certain. 3 people walked into that building with the same opportunity. Only one of them understood something the others had forgotten. Your resume tells people what you've done. Your character tells them who you are. And you are being tested every single day. In every hallway, every elevator, every sidewalk. The question isn't whether you'll be tested. The question is, who will you be when no one is watching? Character isn't built in interviews. It's revealed in them. Now I want to hear from you. Would you have passed Marcus's test? Be honest. Drop a comment below. And if this story hit different, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe for more stories that make you feel something real. See you in the next one.